Welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to look at conventional energy sources. So we're going to look at the things that you would think of in terms of energy. Burning wood, burning coal, burning oil, burning natural gas, how these things, where we find them, and what uses do we have for them. So let's look at some details. Ultimately, the sun is the source of energy on the earth. Whether that would be something that you would burn that's under the ground, such as coal or oil or gas, or whether it is something that would grow on the ground, such as peat or hay or whatever, or whether you would gain energy simply by your food. Ultimately, all that energy is derived from solar energy. Ultimately, if you just keep going back, the sun is the cause of the energy that we see growing or that has grown and that we can then burn for energy purposes. So the sun is the most important. If you look then at plants, plants are able to capture the sun to make sugar. So if you take a green plant like algae or a leaf from a tree, they're essentially solar factories, and they're taking the solar radiation along with carbon dioxide from the air and water from the roots normally to make sugar. So they're taking the energy of the sun and actually doing something chemically that wouldn't happen automatically, wouldn't happen spontaneously. You're actually using the energy to put bonds together. Now, once those bonds are together, they then can be broken down to cause energy. So once sugar in an apple is produced by the leaf of that apple tree, you then eat that apple, and the sugar that's in that apple can be used by your body to make your muscles move or your blood pump or whatever, okay? So the plants are producers, and then anything that eats plants is called a consumer. So because we are in a constant need of energy, okay, to keep warm, to pump water, to move things around, we are always looking for means to change energy into various forms. So one of the kinds of forms that people will burn in order to make steam, usually, or heat, is biomass fuels. So biomass is just the word for all living things in an area. So if you were to say, take a square meter or square mile of land, everything that grows on it would be called, or lives on it, would be called its biomass, whether it would be an animal or an insect or a plant or whatever, a fungus. That's its biomass. Well, if you burn any of this, then that's called a biomass fuel. And biomass fuels are considered renewable since they are from essentially plants or something that can be grown and farmed, even if you want to think about it as farming, right? So this biomass that can burn are hydrocarbons. So carbon and hydrogen that is derived from living things is burnable. Okay, so if you think of anything that you can burn, so alcohol burns, well, that's a hydrocarbon. Coal burns, well, that's a hydrocarbon. Gas, natural gas burns. Anything derived from petroleum, okay, gasoline, all that burns. Well, primarily it's carbons and hydrogens. Most people burn wood to keep warm or to cook their dinner. In fact, that's normal. You would imagine you build a campfire if you want to keep warm or cook your beans. You have a fireplace in a cabin. Most people in the world still use wood for their fuel. Some people can use field crops. So if you have hay or straw, that hay or straw can burn. Now it's filthy. You can imagine how the smoke of burning hay would be for fuel, but if that's what you have, that's what you have. Some people don't live in a wooded place, and so they need to burn something that will burn. Dung is burned most all over the place. Usually not in America. We don't normally burn dung, but any cow patties will burn. And a lot of times people in Africa specifically, I'm thinking of, will take their animals and pile all that stuff up, and then use the cow patties to cook their dinner on. Okay, interesting. Another one that's primarily found in Europe is peat. So bogs, which are really kind of mucky, wet areas, not exactly a swamp, but just wet. And what happens is the material grows in it and then just falls in and rots. And it has very little oxygen, and because it has very little oxygen, the material doesn't rot away. And so it just compacts and compacts, and you can cut that years later, and it burns beautifully. And it's, in fact, it burns with more efficiency, like more stuff burns with less smoke than even wood. So peat is burned in lots of places. We don't have any peat bogs here. I don't think so. Okay. Fossil fuels is what most people think of in terms of energy. So oil, this is all derived from animals and plants ages ago that have been buried very quickly and then turned, before they rotted, they turned into the hydrocarbons that from their bodies were left. So you can get them in different places. Normally you're going to have some kind of an anticline, which is like a dome underground, and then that oil and natural gas would kind of go to the top of that. And then you can simply, if you know where to look, and that's why you would hire a geologist if you're a oil company or a gas company, to find out where to drill, and then you can drill and extract it. You then have to, of course, put it through some kind of a refinery to get what it is, because crude oil can be made into lots and lots of different products, kerosene and gasoline and jet fuels and all kinds of different things with the octane levels. Another one that would be very popular here is coal, and coal is also hydrocarbon. So this used to be alive, mostly plants that fell down all at once, was buried very rapidly so that they didn't decompose, and then eventually were turned essentially into rocks that are now very burnable. So you can take coal and put it right on the fire, and it will burn just like a log will burn. So petroleum, crude oil, then needs to be refined, essentially boiled at different boiling points, and you can get a whole range of materials from it. Natural gas is not liquid, but it's in the gas phase, and so methane gas is primarily what would be pumped to your houses. A lot of people in the country will have propane, because if you don't have pipes to get it to you, they can deliver tanks of propane, and propane is just another carbon hydrogen. Okay, and then you're going to see that that you have to find it. So a lot of times the energy companies are very, very interested in geology, because that is where they need to look in order to find this energy that's derived.